Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Gordon, and this is a special presentation of the entrepreneur, self-employed, and small business community on Google+. And today we're going to be having an informal discussion on startup ventures and ways we can help each other. And I'm particularly interested in some of the unfunded and bootstrapped ventures. I think there's a lot of them. And I've noticed an awful lot of the, I don't even want to call it help, but a lot of what people talk about online is for people who are already colossally successful. They'll have some celebrity entrepreneur and you're supposed to watch his video, or some big media company, I won't name any names, will say, oh, we've got this great entrepreneur program, and it will be for colossally successful people. But what about the rest of us? So that's all I want to talk about today. I don't have any really firm agenda. I want to throw a few of my ventures out on the table just so people know about it, but everybody else is welcome to do the same. So I'm going to start with the people who are in here, and we're going to have more slots if anyone else wants to come in and talk as well. So I'd like to start at the on my screen. I don't know if it's the same for you. Daniel, on the far left of my screen, just briefly introduce yourself. I'd like to know what city people are in, what and what your startup venture is, and any other quick thoughts. Just do a quick hello to everybody. So Daniel, the floor is yours, really quick.
Sure. My name's Dan Lehman. I'm from Moorhead, Minnesota, which is right next to Fargo, North Dakota. I just finished my last year of being a teacher for public schools in Fargo. And my venture I'm trying to work on is trying to create Netflix of sheet music, per se. And I'm especially focused on classical music because a lot of what we play is already in public domain. So it's a matter of transcribing and arranging it so that people can get access to it wherever they are. Currently,
did you say a Netflix of sheet music?
That's what I want to do. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. Gail, was in Texas, is now in Oklahoma. What's going on in your world, Gail?
Hi. Well, the usual. I just was fortunate enough to get enough votes to get another small business trans community influencer award.
Oh, congratulations.
And basically just still helping very small businesses, whether they can afford me or not.
Yeah,
I like that.
Gail's been in the business for a long time. She's got a huge Twitter following, active on Twitter. And is always looking for ways to for small businesses to help each other. So we're delighted to have you here, Gail. Henry, you go ahead. You sound like you're really interesting. I wanted to get to know you anyway, so why don't you give us your introduction?
Hi, everyone. It's Henry James here. In Philippines, it's 2 a.m. So I'm staying up. And my startup is about, it's a crowdfunding site. It's a crowdfunding site for crowdfunders and crowdfundees where both sides earns. So basically, we crowdfund startups, and at the same time, those who are helping out during crowdfunding will also be earning at the same time.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah,
startup.
I found that the equity question is really hard for startups. It's hard for me. I still don't get it. I want to come back to and broach how we talk about that. I also want to know a little bit. Is that international or is it just Philippines?
It is international. We are based in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay. That sounds interesting. Johanna?
Sorry.
Am I pronouncing your name right, first of all? Is it Johanna?
It's Joanna.
Joanna. Okay.
Hi, I'm Joanna Roach, and I live in Ottawa, Canada, which is our national capital up in the frozen north. My business focus right now is I am putting together business planning retreats and mastermind retreats, and my big project that I'm working on now is a sales training cruise that's going to leave in February for a week. So that's a whole retreat just dedicated to help you build your sales funnel and the whole marketing side of your business.
Gosh, what a fun business. Are your retreats in Canada, or where are they?
The retreats are all on ship, and so they're long and short ones. The first one is for 7 days.
Oh,
We leave out of Miami.
there's a reason why people have shipboard romances, and it's just in general. I mean, I'm talking as a single person here. You usually match up with somebody where you're kind of in the same boat metaphorically, not necessarily physically. You're just in the same life situation. That happens less as you get older, and it might happen less with, looking for co-founders and ventures too. So that's a great idea. I thought one on a train would be fun. Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, get on a big train drive. I don't know. Just a thought. Anyway, we'll come back to that. I want to get through these introductions. Judy, hi. Good morning, Judy.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi gang. I'm Judy Otten. My company is called GrowthCast, and we make software to help business owners do financial forecasting so they can avoid those scary times like, oh shoot, I can't make payroll, or I have this big expense but I don't have the cash for it. They can see those in advance and avoid those crunches.
Well, how interesting. Have you launched yet, or is this pre-launch?
We've launched. Yep, we've launched.
Okay.
We've been commercially available for 6 months, and all of my time these days is spent on customer acquisition.
Well, how cool is that? I mean, that's something we want to do. Okay, we'll come back to you. Let's move on to, damn, mouse over isn't working. The handsome gentleman. Oh, that's Preston. You have to say handsome gentleman. Everybody answers. Hi, Preston.
Hi guys, how are you doing? Sorry I was running late. Appreciate you inviting me in. You want to know what's going on? A lot of things are going on. We develop online business portal for business owners that has a lot of things that you guys are probably paying for right now. Probably spending a couple $100 a month on. We have it all in one database. Everything is interactive. We just, about 5 months, launched a booster bar program that actually can create more organic traffic to websites, and it's going really well. So appreciate being part of this. Thanks.
Okay, welcome. Well, definitely come back around. My name is Rob Gordon, and I've always just got an awful elevator speech. I really got to work on it. But I have 2 business practice areas. One is contract project management. 4 startups. I would like to have more startup clients. I really don't have any. I have 1 now. And the other is technical writing. I do have clients for that. I don't pay quite as much as I want. And then I've got all sorts of ventures. I've got World Startups, which is a portal for startup companies. Very, very good matching engine on it. It matches people better than just about anything. But I don't have the critical mass of users yet. I have a portal with a partner for California International Trade. We both kind of slacked off on that, but still gets a lot of traffic because no one else is doing it. I have a new venture I'm going to want to talk about probably during the course of this, and I'm calling it the P2P Social CRM, Social Customer Relationship Management. I think there's a lot better way to do things online as far as meeting people, customer acquisition, than we're doing now with social media. And I think basically there's a protocol in browsers that not too many people know about. It's called WebRTC, and it can be used for direct browser-to-browser communication. So in theory, you could have a hangout like this without ever going through Google or anybody. And I'm looking at that as a way to kind of design a new socially based customer relationship management, where we would have a better way to introduce people that we know, say, oh, this would be a great contact for Judy's finance people. There would be a more transparent way to do that, and a few other things. I'll go into that more. I've got a bunch of ventures in various kind of states and measures, but I want to go on to the main discussion here. One more introduction. We have click on him to see his name. Alan, hi. We were just kind of introducing ourselves to each other at this point. So I know you're a friend of mine. Why don't you tell me what you're up to of late? I kind of know, so I won't introduce.
We're a liquidator in Los Angeles, and we liquidate goods around the world. And I do a little side stuff with computer applications.
Okay. Your microphone's a little faint. I don't know if you can check the volume on that. Alan said he's in Los Angeles. He's been an international trade guy. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, and he does stock lot sales, where he'll identify products that you know, that people have made too much of them, and then he knows he's got so many good contacts. He knows how to sell them. Did I do a decent job of that, Alan, or is that?
Try.
Okay. Let's move on, and I'm going to throw the floor open a little bit. I've got some ideas, but you know, why don't just anybody jump in here? Why don't you tell us how you think? Is there cooperation you're looking for through fellow entrepreneurs that you think could help you, or ways we could boost each other? I just want to open brainstorming now. Anybody jump in here?
I'll tell you my challenge that I'm having right now.
Sure.
I'm getting lots of great introductions, both to business owners, which are my target clients, and to financial professionals, which are great refers. The financial professionals especially, they look at the app, they love it, they understand it, they say they know a ton of people that could use it, and then there's nothing. So I haven't quite mastered, I guess you would call it channel management, managing those relationships so that they do go further. And I have followed up, probably not as well as I could have. I've offered to do some seminars and things like that. But yeah, I think those are great leverage points for me, those financial professionals. But I haven't figured out a way to really make the most of it yet.
Can I just ask what you use for CRM?
Me, I'm using Zoho.
Is that working? Well, I've heard a lot of people really like that. Is that working well for you?
I think the problem is me. I'm not as diligent as I should be about putting everything in there, and things happen. I get a phone call in the car, and I may or may not enter it in. It's okay. It's free, so the price is right. I've wanted to add fields, and I couldn't in the free version, so I just live without. Yeah, it's working fine for me right now. I guess. As good as anything.
So your issue is more, not one so much a cooperation, it's more of a sales closing. Would that be?
I think that's a good characterization.
Okay. Other thoughts on ways we could help each other, or ways you might need help? Either one is fine. If it's not related to cooperation, that's okay. Someone else? Or Judy, do you have something else?
I have another idea, though.
Uh-huh.
You know how you see these bundles of ebooks and things like that? I wonder if there's a bundle of products that we could offer for a discounted price, or maybe, a free demo, or, free or discounted month of some of the SaaS products. Some way that we could bundle our products together for small business owners in that model.
That's a great idea. We've got this, 55,000 member entrepreneurs community. There's got to be some way for us to leverage that. So I love that idea. That's worth exploring. So let's see if we can get other. Let's come back to that. Let's see if we can get other ideas on the table. Henry, I'd like to hear from you. What's your thoughts? Because you got your crowdfunding app, and you still with us, Henry?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself.
No worries.
Well, anyway, basically our crowdfunding platform is allows people to generate their own. We allow them to create the card that we're selling. We are selling a virtual prepaid card, which is produced by our members, and that's the one. Once it's packaged, it's just like what Judy was saying. We can actually do a bundle on things. We can even add your products on our virtual prepaid card. So at the same time, it's also a marketing. It can also serve as a marketing material at the same time, so that at least a lot of us startups would be known in the market. My market is around. I have 16,000 members right now.
No, that's
using our virtual card. So, but we're not that. We have not been. We need to have press people and noteworthy. things and stuff, and that's really, it's really hard to tap the press, especially U.S. press. It seems like that they are more into looking into things that would it's I can't express myself. It's hard.
I wish Sandy Fletcher had shown up here because she has a startup venture that deals exactly with that, helping startups get more coverage. I want to get other ideas on the table. We'll come back to all of that. How about Daniel? I'm picking on you, Dan.
Since I'm still in the pre-launch phase, I think it'd be great, when we have so many entrepreneurs in the community, if we could somehow stratify it, maybe to help form some mastermind groups. So people that are at different stages, I'd like to work with, find out some other people in the same spot who maybe are still pre-launch, and then also know who to network, someone who's really successful and can be a mentor or who would volunteer for that kind of position. So I think there are ways to identify people in similar paths and putting them in groups if they were interested.
Oh boy, and just so like one couple sentence there, you just broached about 5 really important issues. One, you noted correctly that everybody is in different stages, and that is an issue. The second thing is you mentioned mastermind groups. I tried to do something here, and you can sort of say I'm still trying. It's called the Virtual Brain Trust Cooperative. And the idea was that we would all have our own individual teams totally dedicated to our success. So for example, if Judy chose me, I would be on her team. She would have a multidisciplinary team. And we would just work maybe an hour or 2 a week, totally dedicated to her success. And then she would be either on my team or the team of someone else, and she would be dedicated to their success. Well, that was a very, very complicated thing to set up because it required multiple teams. A mastermind team is a little bit different than that, in that it's just one group together, working for everybody's benefit. So it's a little bit easier to set up. As I understand, I really haven't been in one. They can either be colossally successful or everybody can fail, which is probably just human nature. But I love the idea. It takes a lot of organization and kind of the questions: who's going to do it? How are we going to do it? But I really love the idea. I like a lot of things you just said. I want to get other people in there. We're going to come back to all of this. Johanna.
Okay, I would be happy to organize the mastermind stuff because that's right up my alley, and that's one of my true passions. I think one of the great things that we can do within this, and this is what I'm offering to help, is the platform. Google Plus is such a great platform, and when you have a promotion of a product or service that you're doing, that you have a flyer, and you're posting it on Google Plus, is to be able to circle all of us, and that we actually reshare all our content, because that's the beautiful thing of it, so that you can get more exposure to itself, and that's something that I'm really looking at.
I assume you're talking about like just special content when you have like a business.
Yeah. So let's say you're working with the organic farm, Gail, and let's say that you have a special event going on for the fall harvest or whatever. Or you're introducing a new product. So every time that you introduce a new product, or you're looking for more funding or whatever, that we actually collaborate with each other to help promote each other's businesses through Google Plus or Facebook, or we can tweet your information and just really help and support each other that way. Because one of the things as a small business, it's really hard to, in a crowded room, to get that big hand out and shout and say, hey, hello, here's me, this is what I do, this is really great. And the more that we can support each other, the better I think all of us will be at hand and to grow our businesses.
Oh, yeah, you're totally preaching the choir. One thing you hear me say a lot is don't wait for orders from headquarters. That's from some political campaign. If something is in the community interest, just go for it. On the board.
Yes.
We can tell the difference between things that are blatantly self-promoting, and there's overlap between the two. You can self-promote a little bit. But if you're doing something in the community interest, like forming mastermind groups, by all means, jump on it. Gail, your turn.
Okay, so 2 things about mastermind groups. We actually have a mastermind group. It's a vlogger mastermind. It has about 170 people in it. And we found that a Skype group works really well because you can be always available, or you can go do not disturb, and then you can just pop in and look. And the way that you could apply that to the idea that you had was you could have a separate mastermind group for each person, so that anybody that had something to suggest for Rob's project would go to Rob's group, and for someone else's project they would go to that group.
That's what I was trying to set up with the virtual brain trust. I never got there. We had some limited success, but it never, like, you know, saved the world as I was hoping. But I like that idea. We each should have our own team dedicated to our success. And by the way, I don't say this very often, but you know who I stole this idea from? Stole it from the terrorists, because that is identical to what a cell is. A cell is a small private team. Now, not necessarily the terrorists. That actually happened. It really started by the French resistance in World War II. They had to, you know, because they were enemy-occupied territory, they had to set up these little private groups. Only one person was responsible for communication to the outside world, and they had a cause. That's identical to what we were talking about in the virtual brain trust. It's a little bit different from a mastermind group, and the mastermind is everybody coming together for, you know, help each other on it. And this is multiple teams helping individuals. And they, you know, it's an organizational structure we don't look at too much, but I still don't see why it couldn't work. So anyway, the only question I had, Gail, was you said 170 or some number like that in your mastermind group, but I'm told that for them to work, they have to be like the standard, fewer than 12, the standard, you know, team size.
For the team idea, they would be small. Like we have groups that are 5 people, and we have groups that are 15 people, and we have the big group. The big group, the purpose of it is that there's always somebody in there. So let's say your site crashes and you need to know what to do. You can go in there and there's somebody to answer you. But the reason we use Skype groups is that let's say that my team is all around the world and they're sleeping when I need answers. I can put my question in there, and then as they come in, they might look once a day or twice or all the time, whatever they have time for, and then they can add to the conversation. So it's kind of like a live conversation, but it's not really live because people may answer 12 hours later. But because it's small, like in your team idea, because it is a small group, and you're focused on one person's project, everything that gets mentioned in there is relevant. Everybody can look at it when they have time, but sometimes you can interact live. In our groups, we don't have meetings. We don't meet anytime regularly, and you're not required to do anything. You're just a member, and you pop in as you can. You contribute where you can, but if you don't have time for a month, nobody's going to give you a hard time that you weren't in there.
Okay, you raised another point that I already know you agree with, because I've heard you said it before, and that's platform independence. You know, I've got this big entrepreneurs community on Google+. I'm proud of it, but that doesn't mean I think it's the only game in town or should be. I mean, Gail, you've raised the point before, like, you know, we've got to use what we've got out there. I recently wrote a blog post, a really long blog post called The Coming Post-Social Media Era, and I really believe this. People are getting sick of the stream. Everything's designed to be inefficient, designed to be sticky, not efficient. And what we've got to start doing is using these tools regardless of where we are, and have our own system so we know each other on different platforms. So if Gail's on Skype, that's fine. You know, we've got to meet each other where we are and connect with each other where we are, and form these teams where we are. And that kind of goes into something political. There's just a massive number of solopreneurs. We've got massive, massive, massive collective power, but we're not using it. So I don't know that we've already got some good ideas on the table here, and that's just, you know, I just want to keep broaching it again and again. So Gail, I mean, that sounds fantastic. So let's now open. Has everybody said at least their piece once? Oh, Preston, we didn't cover you. It's your turn, Preston.
No, that's okay. I agree with Gail. I mean, I am part of her Skype group, and I have learned a lot. I've met a lot of great entrepreneurs. I've asked questions, and they've answered them. It has been a valuable source for me. And, you know, Gail also has set up Trello boards that give us more information about everybody. So I do, you know, kind of agree if you're going to have a mastermind group, because I've had them before, and I've actually ran my own. It was more of a referral group, but it was mastermind because we were all business owners. We all wanted to help each other. It was not part of an organization per se, except our own that we created, and we just developed a relationship. And a lot of the people were able to click with each other and say, "Hey, let's work on this. Let's work on this." And I think, creating the mastermind group, kind of like that other gentleman said, Daniel, would be a good idea, and just kind of break it up into stages of where you're at, and can you be part of this group, and can you be part of another group? Time commitment is going to be the huge thing. How much time do you have to do these groups? But if we use the Skype groups in part of that mastermind, it could work.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from a lot of people here are two things. One, people really seem to like this mastermind group. I wish I was in one. I would like to be in a mastermind group. I would still like to have my own VBT team. I've had it before, and people have gotten busy and whatnot. And it is a little bit of a commitment, not a huge one. And the other thing we heard, not so much here, is the people wanting mentors. And, I have this feeling that peer mentors are almost as good as really hotshot mentors. I wrote a blog post a while ago as, can you be and we had a kind of a joke title. It was, can you be a business advisor if you suck? And it's kind of a silly name, but I kind of think you can. And here's the reason. So, supposing you were walking across a minefield, and you walked first, and then let's say the mines didn't kill you or whatever, or there were like holes you could fall in or whatever, and you got blown up by every flipping mine there was, and you fell into every hole, and you got the other side, and you were just totally destroyed halfway. So, you might say, well, that's a really horrible advisor on how to get across that field. But on the other hand, the guy fell into every hole and tripped off every mine, so he knows what not to do at least. So I'm thinking maybe more peer mentoring could be a good idea. I don't know how to set it up as a program. But I'll tell you what, I am going to read some of the comments here, and I'm going to pick on Joanna. Joanna, you're going to lead the conversation now for a few minutes anyway. I'd either just let people talk or bring up your own things. Is that okay?
It sounds great. So,
okay. Joanna's your leader now. I'm going to read for a minute. Go ahead.
So one of the things that I think what would be really good with this group as well is also just sort of discuss, what are your goals for the next quarter? And each one of us, that we could actually support each other to make sure that those goals are in place. So like you said, if you have something that's stuck, that we can move forward to that. So does anybody have a particular goal that they would like to work on in the next quarter?
I do. I can throw this in right before I leave. I have a specific number of customers that I would like to get to in the next quarter.
Okay.
But how can we help with that? I mean, that's typing.
Yeah, I don't even know what to ask for, to tell you the truth.
So one of the questions I would just like to throw out there is, I don't know if I commented on your trail or not about how many times you actually reach out to a customer. So if you're talking to a small business owner, the ratio really is that you need to talk to them at least 7 times before they convert.
Yeah,
So
I've heard that
before. Even if they say no, or maybe not right now, it's still important to continue that conversation with them afterwards. And there's all kinds of different ways, Judy, that you can do that. Like, for example, you might want to grab a cup of coffee. I know we have, there's tons of coffee shops in the States like Starbucks or whatever, and you can actually get them a virtual Starbucks card, and you can send them a thing and say, let's have a coffee together. If you're not in the same city and you want to make that virtual network connection, you could just say, why don't we have a coffee together, see what's up, what's going on, right? And so when you're asking those sales questions, you kind of ask, like, well, if you don't want to do it now, is it no more time, no money, there's someone else that you hired?
I have a thought about that. I read this blog by James Altucher, and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. Altucher Confidential. He's the founder of Twitter, and he has this technique he does every day. And there's a blog post. It's a wonderful blog post. It's called How to Become an Idea Machine. And what he does is just make a list of 10 things every day. And the list can be anything. 10 ways I could market myself more effectively. 10 industries I should know more about. 10 anything, but just 10 every day. And it gets you thinking. And you know, the first few items on the list are easy to come up with, and then they get harder and harder. And he claims that after you do this every day for 6 months, you get better at coming up with ideas. I actually think the technique is even more effective than that. I think you start getting better before that and with less frequency, because I've been doing it, and it does work. But one thing he does is, one thing he did where he started his career before Twitter, is he would send these 10 ideas to potential customers. Really, he goes, here's 10 ideas. Don't be too ridiculous, people, Warren Buffett and stuff. Here's 10 ideas for you. So he would, like, automatically be giving them something. Now, I'm not suggesting you do that, but one thing I've noticed with social media and just sales is there's a tendency for us to just think of ourselves and what we have to sell. But take a moment, take a deep breath, read some of their blogs first. What are they up to? You know, learn a little bit about them. See if you can come up with an idea that totally helps them. Or make some comment on their blog, or it's much easier to do because people have a sixth sense. They know when you're calling just to sell. But if you really do have an idea for them or something you can give them, anyway, just a thought.
That's a great suggestion.
And the same goes with on something on personal. So if you've been in touch with them a couple of times, and let's say their kid is, if they have children, for example, and they're really big into music, right? So there might be hey, did you know so-and-so is in town, or you're going to go on a trip. I just found this really good article of what you can do in LA for free, or free things that you can do. So it's not just always about the business side of it. It's also really developing that more deeper relationship with you, and then that'll help
and it
trust you.
Has to be sincere, because people have a sixth sense for insincerity. So, anyway.
Exactly. And the other really tip that I would give you as well is to that every day, the first thing that you do in the morning, and this is my regimen as well, is I make a call or make I reach out to make a sale every single day. Before you check your emails, before you do anything, it's the very first thing to do, so that you know that you already started your day progressively and actively to making sure that that sales funnel or helping your sales come in consistently. That would be my thing. So anyways, enough about that. So anybody else have a major goal that you would like to throw out there that we can help you with, or in the next quarter?
I need, well, this is a little specific, but I mentioned the P2P social CRM. I really need some good developers who know about how to develop an app. I just need to talk to you, because this is going to be open sourced, and it will be something I think everybody on Google Plus could use. Basically, I don't know if you've ever tried to use Google Contacts for your CRM. I did. It's just really a mess. It's slow. It's a dog. We want to see if we can figure out a better way to use Google Plus. So I need to sync it maybe to our devices. So those contacts are really, contacts we need. We can keep good information on them there. So I'm going to need a developer who's developed actual apps. And specifically, if anybody knows WebRTC, that's kind of a little long shot because it's a little bit obscure. But that's something just I specifically need help with that will help everybody. So that's just throwing that out there.
Yeah, cool. And Henry says that he can definitely hook you up with one of his developers, Rob.
Cool, Henry. I'd love that. And I want to talk to you offline too, because you're really interesting.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. We're at 45 minutes. No, we're at 30 minutes now. I don't want to. I think I just don't want this to necessarily just go on for a whole hour. I want to make sure everybody said their piece. Again, I just wanted to broach the issue. We talked about virtual teams. I wanted to talk about. We didn't talk about work exchange agreements. That was something I was going to bring up. Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we saying, Rob, if you work 2 hours a week on my project, I'll work 2 hours a week on yours. I'm trying to get that going. Approach that to people I like. I've never been able to pull it off. Is that a possibility? Would anybody ever consider that or try that, or know why it hasn't worked?
I think a lot of that has to do why it hasn't worked is because everyone's expectations are not really clearly laid out from the very beginning. So you might say, Rob, I want a developer to work on the graphics of my such and such. And at the end of it, you might want the outcome to be finished within those 2 hours. So you're not managing the expectations of what that scope of work is and what kind of the outcome that you're having. And some of that has to do, I've tried to do this as well, is managing the communications over and over again.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention, how many people here are looking for co-founders, or do you have one, or what's your feeling on co-founders? Because I've wanted one and never found one, so I don't know if I have a personality defect or what's, or if I'm just a lone wolf, or what the situation is. What do you guys, good, bad, and ugly? What do you think about co-founders?
Well, I'm sorry. Did you say co-founder? I'm sure I didn't quite catch that.
Co-founders, partners.
Okay, partners. Okay.
Huh?
I think I always see one version presented, Rob, like you were saying, kind of by the big startups and everything about what a co-founder is, and then bringing in funding and all the parts after that. For me, my dad is my co-founder because we have a similar skill set, but we have a little bit of separation between us to be able to help each other with our skill sets. I think one of the tough parts, and it's how I feel about the mastermind groups too, is just being able to identify what people's key areas are. Because, right now I feel like everybody does some sort of content creation, and everybody does a little bit of coding, and everybody does a little bit of design. Because as so many solopreneurs are in the community, we do a little bit of everything ourselves. So I think sometimes it's a little bit hard to find people that are more or less experts in a particular area that you could exchange that work.
Okay. How's it working out with your dad? Is that working for you? Or?
Yeah, it's great. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Matt Helbing, I think I'm pronouncing his name wrong. Sorry, Matt. But he's in Afghanistan right at the moment, doing work for the State Department. But he did a thing with his dad, and I just thought, oh my gosh, his dad was the developer, and boy, that could be a mess. And he wrote me back, and he said, no, we agreed that if it didn't happen, we'd still be friends. Apparently it didn't happen, and he's gone on to another technique, and they still are friends, so that's good. What my thing about co-founders is, the Silicon Valley VC types will say, co-founders are mandatory, and that's because they typically get these kids. They'll already be friends from college or something, and then they'll cement that with a bunch of money and a legal commitment. So they kind of have to work with each other from there on. But there's an online board called On Startups. It's from Stack Exchange. And if you read that, the whole thing is about fights and battles with co-founders. I mean, horrible ones. We got screwed. I mean, that's half the site. And I think that, and I wanted to broach this issue also, and we're not going to cover it today because it's too big. But the whole equity question, I think, is complicated. How you give up equity on a venture, when, if, I still don't know, and I've studied it. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Henry, you must. Equity splits. Well, anybody then.
I think a lot of it has to do with how much control that you want to have. Some of it not necessarily financial, but it's the IP that's involved and where that idea generates that makes a problem with how you figure out the equity split. Because some people, it also depends a lot on people's values. People might value the intellectual property and more than the money contribution and trying to figure out where that lies between.
You raised an important point. You said, where did the idea come from? And here's where the problem is. Some people would consider that, well, I got the idea. Therefore, I should get the lion's share of this. And other people think that's not worth squat. Who cares where the idea came from? So that's like the root of why there's so much dispute on that, and there's no real rules. What I did do some research on this. I wrote a blog post on questions asked your co-founder, which I've never had. So it's like one of these guys that teaches piano and has never played piano or whatever. Is that the only wrong answer is 50-50. I have actually seen people get in fights over equity when nothing has been done yet. And so I think the most important question you should ask each other, if you're considering a partner, is the level of effort. You say, okay, you want 80%. How many hours a week are you going to put into this? And that's like, people don't even consider that. But that would be the biggest thing. And you might be surprised. They might suddenly say, "Oh, you're right. I'm only going to put 10 hours a week in this. I don't want to put more than that." So you should look at your level of effort, because there's an assumption that there's this assumption that you're two kids in Silicon Valley and you're both going to dedicate your life to it. Well, you might not be in that situation. You might have a day job. A lot of people do. So I'm just kind of randomly blurting out things. Henry, why are you so quiet on this issue? I wanted your opinion. Are you do?
Actually, yeah. Well, anyway, when it comes to it depends on your valuation, and there are several ways to really compute the valuation of each and every company. There are companies that exert too much effort, but they don't have any viable product yet. But the idea of it having to click within the market, it's something that is also looked into, especially if you're talking about big data, especially these days. We're talking about big data, Internet of Things, and so forth, and those things, and even virtual currencies, even on the market these days. So there's so many virtual currencies out there, and there's so many e-wallets that are popping up on mainstream, and they are being given millions of dollars of support. Okay, but of course, on my company, we only support the smaller people, smaller types, small businesses, those who are really just starting up. Okay, and there's no valuation there. It's just a matter of presenting your idea and making sure that that idea clicks within the network of people that will be reading it. So, well, basically that's it.
Okay. No, those are interesting thoughts. I'll have to join your system. That sounds interesting. I think, we're 45 minutes almost now. I think I'm going to go into the parting shots. Now, you agree, Johanna, or is there other things we should cover? Or?
I agree. Let's go. Let's close the party.
Let's wind this down. Preston, let's give everybody a final shot here, because some good ideas have been broached. We're not going to come up to any conclusions. People love the virtual brain trust. I think people from the comments, people are already starting to form some. People like the peer mentoring. So let's give everybody one last shot here, and then we'll close this down. Preston, what's your final parting thoughts?
Know what I was saying about equity. I mean, obviously you can watch the Shark Tank and Dragon's Den. They talk about that all the time, and it is, it is, and sometimes it is an ego thing because it is your baby and you don't want to give it up. But there's sometimes that you need to give up a percentage to be able to go further in your business and be able to expand it to where it needs to be. And it's a hard question, and each individual business basically has to deal with that on an individual basis.
Yeah, it's just, it's not necessarily that you have to. You might just want to. I read this book. It was about ideas. It was getting things done for creative people, and I'm thinking the name was Belmont or something. But he talked about this this movie producer who was very wealthy. And he wouldn't start any new venture without a co-founder or partner. He would just do it just because. He had plenty of money to buy all the talent he wanted. But it was his opinion that ventures just happen better. Now, there's other people who think, no, going it alone is fine. So that's every thought in entrepreneurial thinking, there's an opposite. It's like Chinese proverbs. I'm absolutely positive. Look before you leap. He who hesitates is lost. And anything you say in entrepreneurial thinking is exactly the same thing. But there's a good argument for working with people, and we've got so many good, smart, talented people here. We've got to figure out a way. We just have to. So Gail, your parting thoughts, please.
Okay, so first I want to throw out that we need to do one of these about how to use circles, because even somebody mentioned earlier we should use circles to get everybody to share stuff. We need to better understand how to actually use circles. And so I would like to propose that someone expert at that do one of these Hangouts for us.
There's so many social media people will give you advice on that, and circles are not great for community building. I built the entrepreneurs community by doing that. I started building successfully bigger circles of entrepreneurs, but I don't think you can do that now. It's you know, circles don't have that opt-out. It's not really a community. But that's, you know, your point is well taken. I think the bigger issue is that we've got to figure out how to organize and make sure everybody has the information. Everybody can meet whoever they want. Google's not set up for that. I mean, Gail, I hope I'm not getting you in trouble here, but you know, you said to me once, and I agreed with you, so I'll take responsibility. You said Google uses a divide and conquer strategy. Yeah. You know, I mean, communities are like that. There's dozens of entrepreneur communities, and that's fine. You know, but nobody knows where to post, where to read. It's just, you know, it's a very complicated issue. So we've just got to keep hammering on it. Okay. You know, including your Skype group. You know, not worrying about platforms.
Right. Well, let me change that request then a little bit. We need to do a Google Plus. How to get the most out of your particular community, which may or may not include using circles. Your community is the only one I really make an effort to go to Google Plus and use. There's lots of communities, there's way too many. But you have to have one that's got enough people, and you have to have one that's got a leader that lets you post stuff and be helpful without labeling everything self-promotional. And so I think you have the group on G Plus we need to use, but I think all of us could use some expert advice on how to get the most out of the group.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we've had programs on Hangouts like this. What I never wanted was this to be a cult of personality. I never wanted this to be a Rob Gordon thing. I want to use the services the same as everybody else. But I've noticed a lot of the Hangouts now, the shows that are happening, they're getting to be the same people. And that's fine, you know, but we wanted more people to get involved, including hosting your Hangouts. So you know, someone else could host this Let's Talk About show, and we'd help promote you. You could do a little bit of self-promotion, but it would really be, you know, things that are done in the community interests. Another example, we might want to do one for freelancers, maybe even next week. You know, let's get the freelancers together and ways to, you know, help market ourselves and things like that. So I totally agree with that. Oh, another thing I tried to do, and again, this is just me, you know, trying to organize things. Why aren't we interviewing each other? I have noticed, by the way, this is kind of an aside, that the YouTube channel and page integration has gotten much better. It used to be very complicated, and so maybe we should all have YouTube channels. And you know, and maybe we should be following it. So I'm just kind of throwing everything out there, more or less random.
We have YouTube channels. One challenge is that when you create a new channel, it's going to create another Google Plus page.
I saw your comment. Yeah, I saw that.
Extras, and then you can't get rid of them. And I'd love to find someone who is really good at that. I'd like to hear from them.
Yeah. By the way, another thing of mine I forgot to mention. It's really important. I don't know why I forgot to mention it. But I am still interested in doing a virtual accelerator, and I've come around this several times. And it started with questions I had both on the Virtual Brain Trust and on the entrepreneurs community. Every once in a while, someone will post a question we normally would just believe is, I want to start a business. How do I do it? And it'll be maybe someone whose English isn't perfect, and I think, what a dumb question. And then I'll be damned if those things don't get all sorts of answers and all sorts of suggestions, good ones. So I thought, you know, there must be a list of everything a small business should do to get started, a micro venture. You know, right from everything from, you know, right from the beginning, laying the groundwork, identifying your goals properly, and then things like logos and minor things. And there's got to be a comprehensive list of all that. Now, you could look at that list and you could skip items. So I tried to do this a couple times, but I tried to use group dynamics to do it. And then I realized, you know, I've got now a list, an organized list of what the items are. We should develop an assessment questionnaire so we know, you know, the point what Dan made earlier about everybody being in a different phase. So we know what phase you are, whether you need money or you don't need money, you know, whether you have partners, whether you want partners, all that stuff. So we had a good assessment tool. I've already started on that. But then I'm just going to start making my own damn YouTube videos, which are probably easier to do than this Hangout. and start covering the topics I can cover one by one. And then bringing in experts. So Gail, I might bring you in for blogging or something, and bring other people to do these little tiny vignettes that are little instructional on how to do this with resources where they go, and then exercises. Very much like so it would be a virtual accelerator, things you can do later. Then later we could bring in the teams and the group dynamics. Anyway, that's a complicated idea. I just wanted to broach here for anybody out there listening. I said I was going to close this. I'm still talking. Who has not said their piece? Dan, did you say your piece yet?
Yeah, I guess I go back to the mentorship groups. I really think if we use something like a Google form to help identify where people are, another thing would be, like, I'd be looking for people who have a web-based business primarily, that are business to consumer, because I feel like when we get people from all sorts of different areas, sometimes it's really good feedback, but having people who are more advanced in the process but are also business to consumer, online based, finding people in similar areas would be helpful.
Okay. Other thoughts, anyone?
Well, I'm mentoring Rob. I am also one of the mentors of HP, Hewlett Packard mentor group. They do have a mentor group there where you can touch base with several mentors, and that which also includes me there. So when it comes to web-based, well, I can also help you with that and assist you and become one of your mentors, or anytime that you need help with regards to IT or web-based technologies.
Wow,
We can all
I might take up on that.
help
That's
each
a good
other
offer.
there.
And you said that's HP, Hewlett Packard?
Yeah, HP mentor.
Okay, interesting. I like it when big corporations do. Joanna, your parting thoughts. Joanna.
So I think a lot of the ideas that's brought forward is really great. I'm just sort of throwing out there, Rob, I'd be happy to help you launch any of these ideas and throw my help out there. And that's just sort of, I think that if all of us are open to just giving some suggestions to move this forward, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Okay. Well, we're past 50 minutes now. This has been a great hangout. Boy, I botch about 2 out of 3, so it's a nice one. One works out like this. So thank you, everybody. This has been the entrepreneur, self-employed, and small business community on Google+. Today we talked about ideas for helping each other with our startup ventures, and some great ideas have been put on the table and broached, and I have a feeling a lot of discussions are going to be taking place offline. So we're going to be doing these hangouts more often. If you want to host any, let us know. But in the meantime, I thank you, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.